What up? What up? This is Mr. Portman. This is what you are going to be teaching the little children in the other group. It's called Power to a Power Rule. It's just another rule that we have with exponents, such as multiplication with powers and division with powers. There's also something called Power to a Power Rule. And then we're going to learn one other concept that the other group is going to be responsible of knowing, and you're going to be responsible for knowing this as well, okay? I don't have my stylus because I don't have my Surface, so it's going to look a little bit different from most of the tutorials I do, so just deal with it, okay? The Power to a Power Rule, again, I'm going to show you how you would do this in math, or how you would write it in math, and then I'm going to show you how you would write it and how you would write that in English, okay? So what the Power to a Power Rule says is that if you have a number, let's call it A. Hold on a second. If you have A and you raise it to the power of B, or let's say, I'm sorry, usually the way we would see it in textbooks, it would be M. So if you have A to the power of M, and you raise the whole thing to the n power, okay? So what that says is that you have a number raised to a power, but you're raising that power to another power. Take a look at that for a second. The rule is that is the same thing as A to the M times N. It would be like, put like a little dot in between there, all right? A to the M times N. So how we would write this in English, okay, is when I say English, I mean this is just how we would write it, how we would explain it. Like you'll hear me saying this all year. I mean, like how we write it in English. The basic saying you're multiplying, add the exponents, okay? Whereas power to a power rule, a power, if a power is raised to another power, basically, if you have exponents touching, all right, and when I say touching, it's kind of like, yeah, they're like touching, but they're, one of them's inside the parentheses, one of them's outside the parentheses. If you have a power raised to a power, if there's like powers touching each other like above, like you have the M and the N touching each other right up here, you would say you multiply the exponents. Okay, that is how you would write that in English. A to the M, all raised to the n power, is A to the M times N. Now, I want to show you why that works. Okay, I don't want to just put that up there, or you don't want to just put that up to the people you're teaching and just say, take my word for it, or that's what Mr. Portman said. You want to tell the folks why this works. All right, they need to know this. So do you. All right, the reason why this works is that, let's say, and let's use numbers this time. That'll be a little bit. I think that'll be helpful. And let's do it thicker. Let's do this. Okay, so if we have 2 to the third power, all squared. Okay, what is the base in this question? Well, the base is what the exponent is touching here. So when I say exponent, yeah, you could say 2 is the base, but I'm looking at this exponent here. What is the base to this 2, the exponent that's a 2? The base is 2 to the third power. So how you would do this is you'd say 2 to the third, and you'd put that in parentheses, and then you say times 2 to the third times 2 to the third. Right? I mean, we wrote the base, which is 2 to the third in parentheses, and we raised the whole thing to the second. Oh, I'm sorry. It shouldn't be 3 times. Excuse me. Let's erase that. There. It's only twice. 2 to the third is only, the exponent is 2. 2 to the third times 2 to the third, all right? And now you go back on what we've already learned. If the base is the same and you're multiplying, what do you do with the exponents? So that's like saying 2 to the third times 2 to the third. You leave the base the same as 2, and you multiply the exponents. That'd give you 2 to the ninth, and that would be your final answer if it said write using exponents. If it says write using or evaluate, you'd want to figure out what 2 to the ninth power is. That's a calculator question. I want you to understand the logic of the rule, but if it said 2 to the ninth evaluate, you would just figure out what 2 times 2 times 2, all that is, okay? Like what that would be as a number, all right? We'll try another one. Let's use some variables this time. Okay, so we'll do... Let's say we have f to the fourth. That's a 4. All to the third. I'm sorry. With a stylus, it looks a lot better. F to the fourth. Well, not a lot better, but f to the fourth, all to the third power. Okay? Again, if you have a power raised to a power, you are going to multiply the exponents. So we have 3 groups of f to the fourth. You don't need to write it as a repeated factor every single time if you remember the rule. That would give you f to the 4 times 3, which would give you f to the 12th. All right? Simple enough, right? Let's go through and we'll get into a little bit more challenging questions. All right? Where kids go wrong and so forth, okay? All right, so let's try this one. We'll just add a little bit more to it. Draw. Okay, so I want you to write in the box, like have your kids or have them write this, because I would recommend you have them write this. Let's say insert. We'll do a text box. I'll draw one. Make it a different color here. Okie dokie. So, remember the exponent is only talking to what it touches, all right? This is very important. Ooh. Very important that you have your kids remember, and that you remember this as well. All right? You need to give every single thing inside the parentheses an exponent, okay? So, think of it like this. You are distributing to every exponent inside the parentheses. Okay? You're going to distribute every exponent that is on the exponent on the outside. Let's do that. Distribute the exponent. This says distributing. Distribute the exponent on the outside. Let's put that. Distribute the exponent outside the parentheses to every exponent inside the parentheses. And when you distribute, you're multiplying. You know what I mean? Like, y'all should know that already. No big deal. Distribute the exponent, or the outside the parentheses, to every. Let's highlight this. Let's circle it. Let's underline it. Let's turn it red. I mean, we need to remember that this thing says every, because that is where we are going to start going wrong, okay? To every exponent inside the parentheses. So, for example, for another example here, we'll come down here. And we'll go with red. And we'll say parentheses. Let's say x to the third, y to the fourth all to the fifth power. Okay? You are going to distribute this exponent to every exponent that is inside the parentheses. And when you distribute, you multiply. You get x to the 15th. That's a 5. Y to the 20th. Okay? Seems easy enough. No big deal. I mean, I think y'all would probably get that if you understood what we've done so far. I think you'd probably get that right anyways. X to the 15th, y to the 20th. Now, this is where it starts getting a little bit tricky, little children. All right? This is where you want to tell them to really focus up. Pay attention. All right. We're going to draw. Let's do blue. X, y to the fourth, z to the seventh, all to the third. Back up here where they had that box, it says you're going to distribute the exponent outside the parentheses to every exponent inside the parentheses. Well, the exponents I see inside the parentheses, I see a 4 and I see a 7. But there's also one more. Guys, this exponent of 3 is being applied to the x as well. The exponent is only talking what it touches. The exponent is touching the parentheses. It is not touching, which means it is applied to everything inside the parentheses, okay? It's talking to everything in this case. So this exponent of 3 is talking to the 7. This exponent of 3 is talking to the 4. But this exponent of 3 is also talking to the x. So what kids do is they want to say that their final answer would be x, y to the 12th, z to the 21st. That's wrong. There is an understood 1 right here with this x. And when you multiply 3 times 1, you get 3. So this x should be x to the third power. Number one mistake kids make on a question such as that. You know, they remember to multiply. They forget that when you have a power to a power, you got the exponent on the outside is talking to every exponent that is on the inside. When I say talking to, I mean is being applied to every exponent that's on the inside. I'm going to show you one more. And, you know, this is about as hard as they come for right now. So it's not difficult if you understand the project, if you understand the logic, if you take in mind what I just said as far as every exponent. So maybe up here, have them write in that box because it's important. Okay. Give every term inside the parentheses an exponent of 1 if they do not have an exponent. Guys, if it does not have an exponent, step 1, give it an exponent. All right, I can't tell you how important that is. You're going to give every term inside the parentheses an exponent of 1 if they do not have an exponent. If you forget to do that, you are going to get the question wrong, believe you me. All right, so let me show you what I'm talking about. I mean, you saw what I was talking about there just a second ago. If I have 4 a to the 5th, b, c to the 7th, and we're squaring that whole thing. We're multiplying a group of 4a to the 5th, b, c to the 7th by itself, 4a to the 5th, b to the 7th. You could write that out longhand, but step 1, what you're going to do is you are going to come in here and you're going to give anything inside, any term whether it's a number or a variable, inside the parentheses an exponent if it doesn't have one, and you're always going to give it a 1 if it doesn't have an exponent. You do that first. Tell the little children when you're teaching them that is what you do first. And then you can go through and you're going to distribute, okay? We have 2 times 1, 2 times 5, 2 times 1, and then 2 times 7. And we're actually going to have another step here, all right? You're going to have, 1 times 2 is 2, so you're going to have 4 squared. And then a to the 5th squared, they give you a to the 10th. 1 times 2 is 2, you have b squared. And then 7 times 2 is 14, so you get c to the 14th. Now, technically, this is not wrong. However, it's not simplified for enough. Like, this is not going to be one of your answers if it was a multiple choice test. What is wrong with this picture is that it's not simplified all the way, and what is not simplified all the way is that you have a number being raised to a power. Your final answer here would be 4 squared, which is 16. And then a to the 10th, b squared, c to the 14th. That would be your final answer, okay? Guys, if you didn't understand something, maybe stop, rewind, go back. The other group is going to be responsible for this information, as are you, okay? So we'll look at some more examples like this when actually next week or in a little while, but this is what you need to know for right now. And then we will you're going to be responsible for teaching one more concept. So just this for right now, and then we'll look at the other one next, okay? All right, I believe in you. Do the next right thing.